you know, any job, any internship, there are some core skills that are required, or whatever. There's some thing that is needed for you to be able to do that job, right? To do it successfully, to be a part of that team, for the team to like you and incorporate you, and for you to fit in with the culture, for you to get the work done, all those things, right? So there's going to be, yeah, and again, I like the three things, right? So there's going to be a few things that they need to make sure that you have, right? So when you know what those, when you can speak to those three things, then that's when you're doing, that's the responsibility that you have, right? Because no one else can do that for you, right? I mean, you can, someone else can, I mean, your resume, your cover letter, all of that, I mean, it talks about you, you know, it's still very theoretical. And then there's this job, right? So, I mean, the job's a job. Those people have said what it is, you know, other people are applying for it. But there's only one person who can make the connection, right? There's only you who can say, all right, this is what you want to get done, and this is me. And then being able to pick out the things in your profile that speaks to them, right? Because it's not everything that you have done. It's not, sometimes it's not even, you know, you have to tease out the threads that's important to them. And that's your job, right? That's your responsibility. So let's say for an example, if I went to a interview, and let's take two very different scenarios, right? So let's say I first went to an interview where it was to be a career coach, right? And so there, you know, it's my responsibility to make sure that my interviewees, my future employers, know what it is that I can do as a career coach. How long have I been doing this? What's the depth and breadth of experience? What kind of different populations have I worked with? What are the frameworks that I use? What kind of, you know, what sets me apart from other career coaches, all of that, right? So it's up to me to look at my entire, and if any of you know me, I have like an insane amount of like having done all these different careers and all of that, right? But it's up to me to tease out. I mean, obviously, there's no point in going and talking about everything I did in these investment banks and the World Bank and all of that. What's relevant from that is the fact that I have done a lot of different jobs, and therefore I can speak to many different career paths with students, right? But I don't need to get into my entire career history and how everything happened and why this and why that and, you know, what I did in those jobs, because in this particular instance, what I'm there to speak to them about is that I am a good career coach, and here are the three reasons or the three areas of experience and competency skills that I have that make me an ideal candidate for the role that they're trying to fill, right? So that, like I said, nobody can do that. Only I know how to, I know all of me to be able to then take the things that are suitable for that job, which also it's my business by now, of course, to know exactly what that role is, right? So now let's say on the other hand, I decided to, you know, I don't know, just be done with the coaching thing. And I wanted to say, go back into finance, project finance or banking or whatever, right? So in that scenario, again, it's my responsibility to, if I believe that is a job that I can do well, and they've obviously invited me, right? So they're hopefully thinking the same thing. So then it's up to me to go there and speak to them about me in a way that makes sense in that situation, right? So that's what selling yourself, that's when that American concept of selling yourself is, it's just, yeah, just the wording is just so unfortunate. It just says to like, you have to promote is bad too, right? Because again, culturally that doesn't work. You are responsible for accurately describing your capabilities so that that person can make a decision, right? And so therefore, yes, you do have to take certain pieces and speak up those pieces, right? And there's other stuff that's going to be relevant. So in this case with the banks, I would obviously talk about the fact that, what I would do is I'd probably say I have, 20 something years of work experience in total, out of which a significant part of it, especially in my late 20s and 30s, was spent in finance, different roles in finance. I worked on the buy side, I worked on the sell side, I worked in private wealth management, I worked in international finance, like project finance. And so you see how, like, already right there, I've focused on a completely different part of my background, right? I've focused on the fact that, I did finance. Now, I haven't done finance for a very long time, right? It's been like, 8 years now. So in this situation, when I go in, what I want to do is make a statement about my overall years of experience and then go right into the piece about finance and make sure that I mention the banks I've worked at. I worked at the World Bank. So that's where the focus is, right? And then I probably would want to mention that I got my MBA at a school that is very well known for its strengths in finance. So these are the things I will be teasing out and talking about. These are totally not the things I would be teasing out and talking about for the coach interview, right? So you see how that's what we're talking about when we talk about selling yourself. I mean, it's basically the fact that you have to be able to take different pieces of yourself and create I like to say like a clay figure, a little mini clay you, right? So think of it as, the building blocks, the pieces of clay are always the same, right? So that's why it's not to say, sometimes people say to me, but Hira, how can you go and like do two completely different interviews and like talk about, it's like two different people, and isn't that like deceptive? And no, it's not, because everything I'm saying is accurate. It's just that I'm connecting the dots and drawing a different picture for the benefit of my audience, right? So the pieces of clay are all the same. They are legit. They're facts, right? This is experience I've had. These things I've done. What I'm doing is I'm taking those pieces and constructing a little miniature person out of them. And yes, the person I would construct for the coach interview is going to be very different to the person I construct for the banking interview, right? Now, does that mean that either of those are false or fake? No. I mean, it's just the same person, except I'm choosing to highlight the stuff that is relevant, not only because that's in my interest, but because it's also in the interest of the person who's listening to me, right? Because if I don't do that, then they have to have the job of somehow figuring out, in these 20 years of experience and all this crazy stuff I've done, they need to sit there and now figure out, okay, when did she do banking? What was it? Does she have the skills? They have to then do all that work, right? So I'm doing that work for them so that they have the information that they need. So if you look at it like that, I think that should be helpful. I mean, there's certainly, it is tactical. There's a little bit of strategy there, but it's honest. There's nothing that is not honest about that process. In fact, I think it's being pragmatic and responsible. I always come back to this word responsible, because that really is the bridge between, it's not boasting, it's not this humility thing. You have to think of it as being responsible for that situation, in that context, right? So whatever that means, that is humility, right? To be responsible and to speak to what you bring to the table. Okay, well, thank you for listening, and I will catch you tomorrow.